Hey guys, well this is our single most requested video that we have. And basically what we're going to do today is we're going to take out the dash in our derby truck. Now everyone's kind of got their own take on this. Some people just like to start hitting it with a hammer, ripping it apart and whatever, but I like to be a little more methodical with it and just take it apart piece by piece, screw by screw. That way at least I know what I got. Now, this vehicle is a little more unique to the fact that I don't have to worry about saving any of the wiring. A lot of your compact derby cars today, fuel injected cars, you gotta be safe and careful when it comes to what wires you cut and which ones you keep, because you don't know right off the bat exactly what ones you need to worry about. So I don't have to worry about that, so I'm gonna try to kind of keep a lot of those same concepts when I take this apart, so you guys can see some of the precautions that we take. But essentially, if it's a wire and you can prevent cutting it, waiting and just not worry about cutting it, then please do that, because you never know when you might need a wire or something. You only have one shot at it, and it's so hard to track these issues sometimes when they happen. So we're going to start into it. This is probably going to be a little more lengthy video, but I'm going to show you guys anyway. This video has been requested by a great many of you, but one that's been persistently requested is by Eddie and Debbie, and they shout out to those guys. They're big fans of our page and our YouTube channel, and shout out to you guys. Thank you for your support, and hopefully this video proves to be helpful for you. So what we're going to do is we're just going to get to work here. Fortunately, we do have to kind of work around some stuff like the steering wheel. It's going to stay because it takes, I could take it off, but that's just more time and effort than it's needed. So let's see. What do you got to do first? Well, first thing that I like to do is look for the things that are easy to come off. So panels that look like they're on top of the other ones. So right here, like this face piece around the instrument panel. That is definitely towards the outside. Then we got this extra trim piece. You can see that, well, this one's already kind of busted, but you can already see the groove where it's sitting on the farthest out point. And then the glove box, that's got to come out. So what I just start doing is just start taking out screws, and it's as simple as that. You just start taking out screws until stuff starts coming apart. So we're going to start doing that. Alright, so first you got to kind of identify what screws are what. This is just a Phillips, so we're going to go ahead and just take this guy out. I just generally throw the hardware on the floor and pick it up later when I'm done. As you can see, there's another screw there, screw here, and then another screw down here. So we're just going to keep working our way around and take these screws out. I was taking this apart. I found this plastic piece actually wasn't even on top of the one I was working on, the one that goes underneath the column here. So I've already taken out most of the screws, and then it just pops right off. So then here's this piece. We'll just put it on the floor for now. And now we'll look at the piece around the instrument panel that I had already taken out. See, I've removed the screws, and now it's just loose. Now you kind of give it a bit of a shake and a pull, and typically this stuff will just start to come loose. Now occasionally you'll have wires attached to the bottom or something, or on the back. And you just give it a pull, and there it comes out. We're going to toss that in the back for now. Ooh, that was exciting. Alright, so now let's see what we got here. Now we have some, looks like some just simple smaller bolts, probably like a 9/32 or something like that. And I think I already have the wrench for this size, thankfully. Yep. So now we're just going to take these screws out, and then hopefully then the instrument cluster will come out. So I realized pretty quick that I actually made a mistake, and you know what? That's okay. Sometimes you start unscrewing the wrong things, and then all you get is just then the plastic cover over the instruments, not the actual piece. I just was videotaping, not really paying attention. Well, this is just a plastic piece that's actually bolted in the corner. So you got one bolt down here, one up here. It looks like to be another one back in here, and then one back in the corner. So we're going to pop those screws out, and then hopefully then the instrument panel will come out. Now one thing I'm noticing already right away is that a lot of this is steel. Now a lot of your new ones today is a lot of fiberglass and plastic, but this one actually looks like it has that kind of a framework that's all steel. And now I'm not familiar with this vehicle well enough to know whether that's true, but I'm guessing what's going to happen is I'm going to pull all this out, and then I'm going to have a steel dash actually still left after I get all this plastic off of it. So that'll be kind of interesting. I'll have to think about whether I cut that out or leave it or whatever I do, but for now we'll just start taking out the screws that we know we can take out. So we'll work on the instrument panel first. Actually, how about we jump to this? So we got our heater control. It looks like it's just 4 bolts here. Alright, so just give this kind of a pull out and let's see what we got. Well, it looks like we got a wire attached here. So we give that a twist. Okay, that's the backlight. So we got that. And then let me switch hands here because I'm right-handed and I'm trying to do everything while videotaping at the same time. So we got a plug for the electrical, so we'll want to pull that tab and pop that guy off. And then it looks like all we have then at that point is just a couple steel cables. So let's pop this plug off. Alright, so now that we got the plug popped off, there's a cable on the top and there's a cable, hopefully you can get it on video, going along the bottom there. So what we're going to do is actually just take our snippers, trying to figure out what's the best angle of attack here because I'm doing this all one-handed, but let's just go in here and we'll just snip it off. Again, just a pair of wire snippers, and it's just a steel cable, a braided cable that it runs, and then that actually opens the chute on this particular model. Alright, so just cut the steel cables, and then this control just comes right out. Snip those off. Alright, so now to the next, the instrument panel. We just got the, looks like 4 bolts, and hopefully this thing will pop out. Now I generally don't like to jump around. I've got all the screws out of here, but it really quickly came to my attention that this dash pad is already pretty loose and would actually make life a lot easier to take this thing off if I had it off. So what I got to do is just keep on taking this piece off. Okay, wow, that just fell right off. Sometimes you get lucky like that. It's already broken and the clips are broken or whatever else, and then this little plastic piece just pops off. Alright, so clearly that had no purpose. So we're just kind of going with it. We're going to see what we got here. So these dash pads usually have some bolts along the bottom. So there's one. Looks like there's another one. There's one here, one there, and I think there's even one around the corner. This one appears to already be loose. It's already loose. Now the other thing with these dash pads you got to look at is up in here too. Generally where the air vents are, there will sometimes be screws. Usually up in here, sometimes even bolts. I've seen it to the point where we've actually just had to rip it out and then remove the bolts after we've already taken the glass out. Sometimes there's also a speaker in here, you got to take that out, undo some bolts to get that, and then this pad will come off. So first let's start with the easy stuff. Hey look, a penny. Free money. Alright. But we're going to get the bolts out on the base here, and we'll give this thing a pull and see where we're at. Alright, so the bolts are out along the bottom now. Let's just give it a pull, see what happens. Alright, looks like anything that was holding at the top is now pretty much rusted away. Wow, look at that. Alright, so there's the speaker. I was wondering where it was. But the pad clearly did not have much attached. Holding it on. Looks like there was some bolts and nibs right here. Maybe someone had already taken them off at one point, but lucky day for us, that was all there was to take that out. So let's just shove that into bed. And probably next, we'll just go ahead and get this speaker out of here, just because it looks disgusting, and we'll get that out of the way. Now on to the next piece. Now obviously everything's different. This one only has 2 bolts, one at each side that's holding this thing on. But as you can see, we're really close to the windshield, so I didn't have room to actually get the full wrench with the bit into place. So another trick that you can use is you can take that bit and then take either a wrench or maybe pliers or something and grab onto it and actually give it a turn, and that allows you to work in these areas that are a little tighter. Now this one happens to be already loose enough that I can just kind of grab onto the bit here and turn it by hand. Let's get it the rest of the way out. Then the speaker just lifts out. And apparently the wiring was already cut and everything, so the speaker just came out. Otherwise I'm going to say there's a plug here. You can just unplug the wire and then leave it all kind of plugged in. So there you go. Add that to the trash. So let's see what's next. We can either, we'll probably just continue on over here with the instrument panel and go from there. So I took all the bolts out of it. Now let's see, we'll give it a kind of a wiggle and some pulls. And there's clearly something else holding it. Oh, there's a couple of bolts. See, I missed them. One right here and one down here. So we're going to get our wrench on it, pull those out, and then hopefully this piece will pull up. So we're kind of figuring it out as we go, guys. This is kind of fun. So a couple more bolts. Those bolts have this shift indicator to know what gear you're in, which we don't need anymore because we're going to just put a shifter right through the floor. So it appears that this thing is now loose. Now we can give it a nice shake and everything moves. So let's just kind of start pulling on one corner, see what happens. Okay, well, that piece obviously isn't needed. Alright, now this all looks pretty solid. See, now this is steel. If it was plastic, I'd say just, you know, pull it out or whatever and just break it, because you really don't need a lot of that stuff. But obviously if it's steel, it's not as easy to work around. So we're just going to wiggle around. Okay, get it out. Keep kind of tugging on it and pulling, because I don't really want to save this thing. I don't have a reason to. Now I do know that the speedometer cable is attached to the back, and so obviously you got to be aware of that. Now I'm just trying to hopefully break the thing off. Alright. So now, see, we're stuck on the speedometer cable, but if you look, there's a clip on it. So this is your speedometer cable coming in. I know the light is really bad right here, but hopefully my light will pick it up. But there's a clip on the back there, so we're just going to pop that clip off. I'm going to have to put the camera down and use a screwdriver, and we're just going to pop that off. Alright, so I got that popped off. Now we're just going to pull this out a little bit and see what else we got. So we got a wire attached here. I believe that's for a light bulb. Yep, so we gave it a twist and now the bulb just fell out. So let's tuck that in for now. Kind of give this another twist. Alright, we got another bulb that came out. And then clearly the only thing holding it in at this point is just this harness. So I'm going to pinch it at both ends, it looks like. And then it pops right out. So there you go. The instrument panel is now out. Now, obviously, if you plan on keeping this, you got to be a little more careful and probably pop some of that stuff off ahead of time. But since I don't plan on keeping it, there's really no value to it for me. I'm just going to toss it and on to the next piece. Alright, so now we're looking pretty good. We got a piece of trim here, which has got just 2 bolts. So I don't really need to show that. I'll get that on the next, after the next video, the after that. We just kind of keep looking around at what else needs to come out. What's easy? Obviously the ashtray is not going to be needed. So sometimes you just give it a twist and these things will actually pop right out. This one appears to not want to do that as well. It looks riveted in place. So we'll have to use a little more leverage to pop it out. So let's see what happens when we pry on it. Nothing. Alright. That's exciting. Okay. Must be more bracketry to it. Alright, figured it out. There's 2 screws holding this whole metal piece in. So I just started kind of prying on it and saw that it was attached here. So now we're just going to take the wrench and we're going to pop those out real quick. Alright, so now with the screws out, we're going to kind of pry on this. And it's still attached at the bottom. So we're going to get those screws out as well. It looks like they loosened them up to put in this aftermarket pressure gauge. So we're going to take these screws off and then probably this bracket will just fall right off with it too. Alright, so I popped the ashtray out and I got, all I have attaching it is just looks like a little light bulb which can go with it. And then I got a wire here for the cigarette lighter. And so I'm just going to cut that because I don't need it. And then, now the ashtray's gone. Alright, So now it looks to me like the next logical thing to take off is the glove box here. So sometimes you got this little piece of plastic that just kind of goes in and overlaps and keeps it from falling out. So if you give it a good hit, falls out. Now looks to me like all there is just a couple screws around the bottom of this thing and it pops out, or it just rips off. But to get this metal strip off, I'm going to have to take this bolt out and then that bolt off. There's the glove box. It's actually metal. How about that? A little heft to it. Alright, so I'll take those screws off on my own time. Now I do see that there's this extra piece that's just covering up underneath the steering column here that will need to come off. But then the other thing to look for then next, obviously any of this wiring that's hanging down, there's usually a bracket or something kind of popped in and holding it in place. Kind of hard to see with the dim light in here, but then the other thing is you have the air ducts from where it takes the air in the heater core or whatever and then up into where it needs to blow. So usually there's a couple screws. It looks like there's one here and then there's another one right here, and it looks like the same repeating on the other side. So then hopefully a couple screws and then this vent piece will come loose. Now it's going to be a little trickier with this dash being steel. I might have to pretty much be stopping pretty soon here, guys. There won't be a whole lot more for this video, but we'll just let's get the air vents out and we'll see where we're at from there. Alright, so I got the screws out. Now I pushed the vent down. I'm kind of just pulling it out. Now we're got a bunch of wiring in the way. There's these little metal pull tabs. A lot of times you can just pull these tabs up and then the wiring gets kind of temporarily secured or just out of your way. So you keep pulling the duct back. Okay. Just going to grab onto it with my hand. Just try to keep prying it. So what you can do is just kind of keep grabbing it, and then eventually this duct work will work its way loose and then come out. It just always does. See, there's a little bit of a piece that it's caught on right down in here. Little nib or whatever. I bet if I just put a screwdriver on it, it'll pop right off. Oh, never mind. It is a bolt. Helps if I look sometimes. Alright, so we're going to get the screwdriver here. Go right through where the ash tray is. And we're just going to take this out. Alright, so the bolt's out. Now this should just drop down, looks like. Hopefully drop it down. It must be caught on a wire or something. I know I'm not really videotaping much, but I'm going to keep trying to work this vent over the open area. Yeah, I'm caught on the wire right there. All kinds of little stuff you can get caught on. So we're just going to keep working our way down to the vent. Hopefully we'll just slide right out of the glove box area. Alright, well our battery is dying unfortunately, guys, so we're going to have to kind of pretty much sum it up from here. But this is a metal dash, but I did notice there are a couple bolts on the inside that if I just take those out, this metal piece should just come right out, and then it'll be pretty easy from there. Now you're going to have your steering column bracket, you're going to want to keep that intact, and if you have to keep the wiring, then you just keep the wiring. I have a great video called How to Condense Wiring, and I suggest you check that out. Otherwise, if you don't need any wiring, just cut it all out. So there you go, guys, just some simple pointers on how to take out your dash. Just start from the outside, start taking all the bolts out that you see, and the dash will come apart. So if we get a more complicated one, then we'll film that as well. So there you go, guys. Here's how to remove the dash out of your derby truck. Hey guys, well I didn't want to leave you hanging, but I did get the dash out in the time that my battery was charging, and I just had to keep working because time was important to me. Now it did have the metal dash backing that I had told you about, and here it is in the bed. Hopefully that didn't make you too sick. So here's where the steering wheel was, and then you got the dash here. Now all that was holding this in was literally 2 bolts on each end. There was one here and one down in here, and then same thing on the other end. And then there was 2 bolts right by the steering column that just held the sheet metal on. And then it was actually, the metal was still attached along the top. Now this is kind of unique. I will admit that most derby cars don't have this. I've only seen one other truck that had this same kind of thing going for it. Usually plastic or just metal reinforced plastic or fiberglass. And so yeah, the metal was pinched up underneath the seal here for the window. So all I did was I just took some tin snips along here and just snipped the metal away to get that out of the way. Now as you can see, I also then pulled out the vent, just fell right out as soon as I cut that thing out, the dash, and then a bunch of the wiring all kind of fell out too. And all that was attached was the fuse box that was down here. It literally just had 2 bolts in the corners and it just came out. And then there was also a plug in the middle of that connector with a bolt on the back side. So other than that, I mean, literally all you guys missed was 2 bolts on each side, me cutting the metal across the top, and then here we are now. So what do you see underneath the dash? Well, there's soundproofing material against the firewall. In this case, it's just like a foam backed cardboard. It's basically cardboard with foam for sound deadening and whatnot for the engine, as well as I think it's to keep some of the heat as well, but you mostly just sound. And then we have the blower unit here for the vents with the heater core inside. Now, because the motor was pulled, all the hoses were already detached. So now what we got to do is we got to be able to get this heater core out of here. And we got to get the heater core out and the blower unit there and get that soundproofing material out. And then once the windshield is out, we'll take care of trimming up this metal so it's not a bunch of sharp pieces coming out. But at least we got enough we can work. Other than that, there's really not much more to go. I mean, everything else I would consider to be interior and not dash. I mean, you know, a dash is in the interior, obviously, but we got things like the headliner that needs to come down, but this video is for the sake of the dash. So I don't even really need to, I think, go a whole lot further. Let me just show you what I'm going to do to take this box out. And again, everyone is different. There's sometimes bolts on this side and then some bolts on the firewall. This particular unit, I'm giving it a shake, and it's only mounted against that face right here. And looking at it from the inside, there are no bolts. So let's just go around into the engine bay and let me show you what we got here. Apologize for all the moving. Hopefully it's not making you too sick. The blower, the fan unit here, the fan is here, the fan motor I should say. So a couple bolts, this will pop out. Not sure if there's anything hidden in there, but it might be just nice to take it out. And then kind of crusted into the firewall is some bolts here. I've already tried them. They're 7/16. There was actually a couple 1/2 inch too. There's some other bolts that they're just floating around. And here's the pipes that come out to go to the heater core. Now there were hoses that went out to the engine to get the water in there. But basically all you're going to have to do to finish this job, at least for this truck, all I'm going to have to do is take out these couple bolts against the firewall. This heater core box and fan box will just fall out. And then once this black box comes out, we're going to take off and just grab that cardboard and just tear it away. And then the dash is out of this thing. That's all there is to it, guys. So, you know, to sum it all up, here's what you do. Start taking screws and bolts out. If it's important, a big piece will come off. If it's not important, then you keep taking more screws out. Sometimes you take apart things that aren't necessary. Other times you take off things that are very important, and then the dash pad falls off or whatever else, or just panels fall off as you saw in this video. And you know, everything is different. Every dash, every car is going to be different. Every manufacturer has their own flavor as far as that goes. So if you have questions, feel free to just comment down below. If you have a certain vehicle, you're saying, hey, I don't even know what to do or whatever, then you know, we're here to help. But best rule of thumb is just start taking out screws and bolts if you've never done it before, and kind of figure out how stuff's put together. And then the next time you do it, it's just going to be that much easier. So there you go, guys. That's taking out a dash. We did that relatively quick. I mean, I didn't use too much magical editing, and you know, within an hour or two you can wrap up this project and get the dash out and then on to the next thing. And obviously if you didn't want to save the wiring, then you can really tear into that thing, take a saw and just start cutting stuff out if you want. But this video is just meant to be kind of generic of how do you do it a little more careful so you don't cut things you don't need or don't want to get rid of things you don't want. So, you know, into each their own. Oh, and one last thing that I forgot to mention that I did do. Over there on the steering wheel bracket, there was some metal that was sticking out, and I just used an angle grinder to trim those pieces off. And so that was just to keep, you know, just keep me safe more than anything. Keep me from getting cut up or my knee going up into it or whatever else. You know, it never hurts to just take that extra minute to just eliminate something that could potentially hurt you. So there you go, removing a dash. Questions, comment below. Till the next video, we'll talk to you later, guys.